Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another exciting and inspiring episode of the Inspired Life Vancouver. I'm your host, Zara Durrani. It's been such a pleasure and honor to bring you exciting locals, Canadians who are making a positive impact in their communities. Joining me today is an entertainer who is definitely bringing lots of smiles to many of you. He's been in some of our favorite TV shows and movies, and I know my brothers and cousins who are watching the show right now are gonna get super jealous because he was Ryu in Street Fighter. He was in Altered Carbon, he has a new project, and he's also worked with some of your favorite actors, including Brad Pitt in The Big Short. I'm talking about none other than Byron Mann. Byron, welcome.
Great to be here.
Thank you for joining. I was going through your list of IMDb credits. It is unbelievable. You've worked around the world.
I have. In fact, I just kind of came back from Korea. I was working in Korea for the last couple months, working on a Korean film, and that was a first for me. It's a highlight, naturally. So yeah, it wasn't planned. This career is not planned. It just kind of happens as you go.
So was that film in Korean, in English, in Cantonese?
Well, interesting you mentioned that because when we got the offer, neither my manager nor myself kind of knew what was happening because I don't speak Korean. I'm not Korean. Why are they offering me this film? And so as we found out, it's actually based on a real story about how a major American investment bank kind of acquired one of the biggest beverage companies in Korea. So the movie has Korean and English, and so I'm the English.
Got it.
Yeah.
Now, you've worked on so many big Hollywood productions, such as Skyscraper.
Yeah, which was shot here in Vancouver.
Yes!
In Surrey.
I know!
Yeah.
My family is in Surrey. Literally, my brothers and cousins are like, no way you're sitting there talking to him right now. I, first of all, also really want to say that I'm a big fan of Street Fighter.
Oh.
So Street Fighter and Super Mario Brothers, as video games, were the only games I could play. And the Street Fighter was the only game that I could win against my brothers and cousins because I would just hit I had no idea what I was doing. I would just hit a bunch of buttons and they're like, she has no idea what she's doing and she would win. And I saw some of your fight scenes and how ripped you were.
Well, I want to tell you something. Street Fighter was also partially shot in Vancouver. Did you know that?
No.
I don't think people knew that.
No, I did not know that.
In Burnaby,
Okay.
to be exact.
Wow.
And it wasn't planned.
Okay.
It wasn't planned as part of the shoot. We had to get there because it's a folklore, but it's I'll tell you the condensed version.
Please do.
It was a very big shoot. It was one of these early movies that came out of video games, right? I think the first was Super Mario Brothers, and then it was like Double Dragon, and then it's Street Fighter, and I think we were shooting alongside Mortal Kombat at the same time. So this is new territory for the film business. So make a long story short, we were shooting in Thailand, and then we shot in Australia. That was planned, but when we got to Australia, we ran out of time. When we wrapped in Australia, we should have wrapped the film. However, about 20 pages leading to the finale had not been shot. So we were wrapped and we were sent back home to LA.
Wow.
So nobody knew what was happening, but everybody knew that we had to finish the film somewhere. Of course, a month later, we get a call. You guys are going to Burnaby.
That's not that far from Los Angeles. Same time zone.
To finish the film.
Yeah.
So we all went to Burnaby in a suburb outside of Vancouver, and we finished the film there. And we were there for about a month. And we recreated the whole tunnel, the whole interior in a studio in Burnaby. And that was really my first time in Vancouver.
In Vancouver.
I remember.
And you've done so many projects here. I mean, I forgot to mention Wu Assassins, of course, and Rush Hour, and in Canada, you've worked on so many projects, including Hell on Wheels. Because, like I said earlier, your list of credits, your body of work, it's truly unbelievable. Now, with everyone who comes on the show, I love talking about how they got started. Like,
Okay.
what inspired you? Were you one of those people who, at the age of 3 or 4, was like, I'm going to be an actor and I'm going to inspire audiences? Or you accidentally ended up in this industry?
Well, in short, I ran out of things to do. That's kind of how I got into the film business. I did acting in high school, but never thought that it would be a career because you didn't think that it would be possible, you know. And so I was studying to be a lawyer, and
I saw that
yeah.
on your IMDb.
I was in law school, and I was going to be a lawyer, and then until I started, you know, of course, you know, like most people, you have no idea what being a lawyer is. You know, I thought being a lawyer is what they do on Boston Legal. You give these impassioned speeches every day, like literally every day in front of a jury. Right? I said, that looks good to me.
Yeah.
But turns out that's what most lawyers don't do. You know, most lawyers stay in their office for 15 hours a day and they write out these perfect contracts. So when I found that out after my first year in law school, you know, the summer internship, and the senior partner sat me down and basically said, Byron, you should do something else. Yeah. It was no malice. It was just a very candid talk. He says, you should do something else. This is not for you. And he asked me, what do you want to do in life? What do you enjoy doing in life? Life is more than just being a doctor and a lawyer. And I said, I have no idea, but I kind of enjoyed acting in high school. That was really fun for me. He says, well, you're going to school in Los Angeles. Why don't you just try it? That's where Hollywood's at. So I tried it. So I used my second and third year in law school to really pursue acting.
That's
on the side.
Funny. I actually saw that this morning about you studying law. So last year, I was working at a law firm.
Oh.
I got a COVID job. I was not a lawyer, okay? I call it my COVID job. I worked at actually 2 different firms. And I was like, okay, this is me adulting. You know, like, I've had my fun. I've done the work in fashion and the entertainment industry. Now I'm just going to get serious. And literally after a couple of months, a month and a half after turning 40, after a long weekend, I had a moment that I was like, this is so not in alignment with who I am.
Did you have that talk with the senior partner too?
No. Well, kind of sort of those talks. Since then, they've taken me out for lunch and they're like, you're too much of a free bird. Yeah. And so many people who knew me through the fashion industry or magazines that I wrote articles for, they're like, Zara, you're a free bird.
That's right.
This is not for you. You can't be like, you know, sitting behind a desk.
That's right.
And there's a lot of trust in pursuing the artistic life, you know, trusting in the universe, in yourself, in your abilities, and the fact that the right opportunities and people will come to you. So did you have, because being South Asian, and I'm sure it's sort of the same perhaps in your family or not. For us, the careers were doctor, lawyer, engineer.
Right.
School teacher.
Okay.
Maybe a nurse. And if your boy go to the military. You know, there was like these kinds of careers. So if you're to say an actor in my family, they're like, that's a fun thing that you do in school or in college. And then you have to get your grown-up job.
That's right.
Did you ever hear that in your family? No, or were they pretty supportive?
No, they didn't know what I was doing. Because I wasn't living with them.
Yeah, okay.
You know? So they were, at that time my parents were in Hong Kong and I was in Los Angeles, and so they had no idea what I was doing. They thought I was just finishing law school, and which I was, but I was really pursuing acting on the side. And still to this day, they don't know too much about the film industry because they don't watch movies. But they know I'm an actor because their friends tell them about, oh, your son's been in this movie. And
But you don't send like pictures. You're like, oh, here I am with like, with some of the biggest stars in the world, or here I am in Calgary shooting Hell on Wheels, or this show.
I got to tell you a story. So this was a while ago in the beginning of my career, and I did this film in Los Angeles, and big studio film. And I brought my father. I don't know if my mother was there, but I brought my father, and I was filming with the lead in the film, right? And it was just a two-shot, and the camera kept panning to the lead because he's the lead, and my father, who's sitting behind the camera, says, hey, like, how come the camera's always on this guy? I said, Dad, that's Richard Gere. And he said, who's Richard Gere?
And I heard Richard Gere is one of your heroes. Like, he's one of the actors you absolutely...
I love, yeah. He makes it... First of all, he's super sexy. Like, he's just like, wow, look at this guy. Like, he's a movie star. And then secondly, he's a great actor. You just don't... People, who are good looking, they don't get the credit of being a good actor because sometimes people think, oh, it's just their looks. Actually, they make it easy.
Yeah.
They make it look like they're not acting, but they actually are acting. Like people like him, Paul Newman, Brad Pitt.
Yes.
They're actually really good actors. But Richard Gere was fantastic. I mean, it was an experience of a lifetime.
I can imagine like the charisma and that he has a certain tone and vibe, like the way that he talks. So tell us about working with him. What was that like? Well, like you're doing these scenes with Richard Gere.
I remember, our first table read, which is a table read is when it's a regular rehearsal. All the actors and the director sit in a room and you just read the scenes from the script just to hear it. And he was, late, fashionably late, but that's fine. He was like maybe half an hour late, but it's fine. We're all waiting for him.
Stuck in LA traffic.
And then boom, the door opens, he comes, sits right next to me, and he just starts talking. And I thought he was just talking about the day, like his traffic, whatever, right? And then like a minute into his chatting, I realized, oh, he's actually starting the rehearsal. He's actually talking, he's saying the dialogue of the script. I didn't even realize that.
Okay.
I didn't realize he was acting.
Wow.
That's how good he was.
That's how natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I'm sure. What was that experience like for you? Because he hasn't been working on any projects lately, not that I've heard of, but there was that time, like I remember even in Pakistan, he's like at the peak of his career. Like you watch any Richard Gere movie that comes out because that's going to be a phenomenal project.
Correct.
I'm sure that would be like a master class working with him.
It was just, I tell people, I have like young actors say, hey, in fact, I just had this, Zoom call with someone, with a friend who wants to be an actress, and she just saw my latest film, The Modelizer, which we can talk about, and she asked me, this was last night. She asked me, which technique were you using? When you were filming this film, because you play that character so well. Yeah. And I jokingly said, well, I used the modelizer technique, which is, I'm just joking with her, right? But the gist of it is that, you learn by doing it. You learn by doing it. Don't get too hung up on technique and whatever. You learn by doing it. And so I learned by watching great actors like Richard Gere working and see, oh, wow, that's how he gets into his character, or that's how he gets into the scene. And this is what he does when he does the scene, or when he's trying to work out the scene, Yeah, it's great. I mean, it was just, I think I learned more doing that than going to acting class.
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, your work's taken you to some amazing locations around the world. Like, you've worked on many projects in Vancouver, across Canada, in the U.S., but like you were saying, you were just in Asia, you were working on that project. Is there a particular location or a particular project that really stands out for you than the rest?
Oh my
I mean,
goodness.
it's hard to say once. You're allowed to
Yeah.
say like one or two, maybe three.
Is there any particular project that
Yeah,
stood out?
in terms of the project and the location that you were like, wow, I get to be here, I get to work on this.
Wow, my goodness. I mean, that's like, trying to name your
Don't
favorite
think
child.
don't think about it too much. Just just off the top of your head, that your heart's like, yes, that was the day.
Hell on Wheels
Yeah.
was one of them. Hell on Wheels is a story about the building of the railroads in the 1800s. And I still remember getting that call, and I was in Hong Kong at that time, and I was getting a call. I was literally at the headquarters of HSBC Bank doing banking that day when I got that call. Say, we have an offer for you to be in this series that shoots in Calgary for 6 months.
And had you even heard of?
And it's
Like-
called Hell on Wheels.
Ah.
And I said, what is Hell on Wheels? Is it a motorcycle show or something? I didn't know about the show. No, it's a Western. Oh, okay. Where's the shoot again? Calgary. I was going, all right.
Where is that
Yeah,
exactly?
where's that exactly? I mean, is it Edmonton or? Yeah, I've never been there, right?
Yeah.
I've only been on either coast, Toronto, Montreal, or Vancouver,
Vancouver,
right?
yeah.
So it was like a new part of Canada to me,
Yeah.
right? And I was like, I usually know someone in each city in the world. I don't know anyone in Calgary. And that disturbs me because, if you don't know anyone, you might not have as good a time, right? So I almost turned it down. I said,
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to go to do 6 months in an unknown city and not knowing anybody. I'm not going to have a good time. So my manager said, please read the script. And I read the script, and it's one of the best pilot scripts I've ever read. I was like, oh my goodness, wow. I have to really think about this. So I was checking my Rolodex. Who is in Calgary? Who's in Calgary? Nobody.
You're asking around, texting people.
Yeah,
you know
I'm looking at the
anyone there?
map. Like, okay, it's 1 hour from Vancouver. Not too bad. Okay, maybe I can do
You
this.
can go to Vancouver on weekends.
Yeah, maybe I can do this.
Yeah.
So make a long story short, we shot the show 6 months in Calgary. The show comes out. It is one of the highlights of my career. Doing this show, playing that character, working with the producers and the writers and the showrunner on that project, working with all the actors on the show. I mean, it was one of the highlights. So it's such a good show with such strong writing, and it's a history that it's part of a history that relates to my background actually,
Yeah.
because my whatever great grandfathers, I'm sure one of them worked on the railroads, and that's part of Canadian history.
Yeah, and I was watching some clips of you from that show, and you are so different compared to Byron sitting here, from your hair to the wardrobe and how you're even walking and standing. I saw some of your interview clips of like you creating characters from the haircut. Tell us about that, from like the hairstyle.
Oh yeah, hair is really important for me.
Tell us about that.
Every actor works differently, right? It's very different, as you know, as a creative person. Everyone has their thing. So my thing is hair. The guy, I need to know what I need to know what this guy looks like in the hair department. So, and it took a while because I remember asking the showrunner to send me some photos of prototypes of this character, and there wasn't any. I mean, this was 1860s. There's like a Chinese character from China who went to, I think, the U.S., Utah, to build the railroads. So I had to kind of look through myself online and look at these characters. So I finally, a lot of times it's hit and miss. You just kind of try different things in the makeup truck, basically, to work with the hair person. Just try different things, and so finally I kind of worked out a system where I think this guy's hair is all pat down, so it finally kind of worked, and it worked. But I tell you the funny thing, now that I'm talking about the show, I also think that this guy, because he reads a lot of poetry and English, Shakespeare and stuff like that. So I think that he would speak, not like me normally, he would speak probably with some sort of a kind of like some variation of an English accent, right? And so I was like, let me think about that. How can I pull that off? So, not knowing anybody in Calgary and not knowing any of the cast in Calgary on the show was an advantage, because so I went in there speaking with some sort of an English accent on and off the screen for 6 months.
Because no one, okay.
Because no one knew me.
Yeah.
From Adam.
Yeah.
So for 6 months in Calgary, on and off the set, I spoke with an English accent. And it kind of because I went to school in Hong Kong. I went to a British high school in Hong Kong. It was an English colony, right? So it kind of made sense.
Yeah. I've also heard some of your interviews like on YouTube over the last couple of days. And sometimes I'm like, is it my ears, or like, sometimes your accent is a little bit different than other times.
Yeah.
Like when you're doing press for Hell on Wheels or Skyscraper or any of the, and I was like, he sounds different every time. Is it because you're still carrying the character from the project you just finished?
It's probably.
Does that happen? Because that sometimes happens to me if I'm hanging out in London with friends.
Yes.
I went to school in Pakistan. So the British school system, the mannerisms and my English, because English is not my first language, it's not my native language. So I changed my tone, everything changes.
Yeah.
And then when I'm back here, I sound different, versus when I'm in Paris, I slow down. I kind of break my English a little bit to make sure the people truly understand what I'm trying to say.
That happens to me too. Yes,
yeah, because you speak several languages: English, Cantonese, Mandarin.
Yes, that's right.
A bit of Thai.
Yeah, that's right.
That you learned for a project.
Yes, and now a little Korean too.
Oh, fabulous.
But anyway, so go back to that story. What happened was, so we wrapped the show, and then like 9 months later, I bump into an actress from that show, and I'm just speaking like him right now. And she looked at me and she was like, "How come you're trying to put on an American accent?" I said, "This is actually what I normally speak in." She said, "What the hell?"
Because the whole time you were speaking,
I was speaking with an English accent. Yeah.
That's amazing, and they totally believe that. But I think it's also how you carried. Like I was watching the clips of your character and your stature and how you stand, and even the whole look in your face.
It's a different.
Yeah.
It's a different era, right?
Yes.
It's a different era, different guy, and it was. But I thought it was, the fact that I initially didn't want to go to Calgary at all. It ended up being one of the highlights of my career for all these reasons. All these reasons. It was, it was really fun.
Because you dove into the unknown.
And that showrunner, John Worth, who was the showrunner is the guy who actually is responsible for the entire show. The showrunner for Hell on Wheels, a wonderful gentleman, John Worth. From that experience, he created Wu Assassins.
Yes.
And he created that character for me. So all these great things that came out of me not wanting to be in this, is like that. What's that biblical story about that guy who didn't want to go into the big whale's mouth? He ended up having the best experience.
That's amazing. No, it's so true and so well said. Sometimes I think our fear, the voice of fear, versus it's like it is that experience that you're gonna learn the most from. That whatever you're like, I don't know, should I go there? Should I go to this dinner party or to this event?
That's right.
Sometimes just go, even if it's for a bit, and you may have the most amazing experience. Wu Assassins, but before we jump into that, I've seen some clips of you and photos of you. It looks like all you eat is protein and all you do is work out all day, every day. And you are just, there's muscles where you're like, you have muscles in that places? Tell us about that. And I heard for Altered Carbon, you did some crazy training.
Yes. Well, what do you want to talk about first?
You want to talk about your training? Like, is our martial arts, like fitness, like a big part of your life? Like, do you do this consistently? or for specific projects?
More the latter. I mean, you know, every time you do it depends on what the movie or the show needs, right? If it's a lot of fighting and action, you know, the bar is set very high right now these days, right, for movies, right? So, you know, you have movies like John Wick and stuff, and these guys train 6 months, 9 months before they roll camera. So, most of the time now, before a movie starts, and if there's a lot of action, you have to train for it. I would like to, at least. So that's it. You do, you know, whatever you need to do. Weight training, you do fight training, and you go, you know, you go for it. So I did this. There's this movie that's coming out, I think this fall or in the spring. It's called Dark Acid. It's an action thriller. I had to do personal training, like, you know, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and on Tuesday and Thursdays I would do fight training. Yeah. So
do you have background in martial arts, or you got into?
It's a little bit of both. I had some background, but really I'm a tennis player, right? So I'm somewhat flexible and agile. And then, but we're talking like since Street Fighter, like 20 years ago or more, I've been, you know, on every project that I've done that requires a lot of action, you train 3 months, 6 months with the whole action team. So I've done close to 70 movies now, or in TV shows. So, you know, you do the math. So I've done a lot of training in that regard.
That's amazing and unreal, because when I saw, like, from Street Fighter to Altered Carbon, I was just like, wow, he's just like living in the gym, eating like super well. Do you indulge? Do you allow yourself to indulge? Like have a croissant, have any pastries?
No, I mean that's my weakness. It's my weakness, and you know, look, you know, it's like shopping. If you don't see it, you don't have to do it. But if you see it, you're gonna have to.
There's a half-eaten croissant over there for me.
You know what I'm talking about,
Yes.
right? If you don't see it,
Yep. No, I
you
feel
know,
you.
if you're just looking at salads every day, that's fine. You just
Yeah.
eat salads
Yeah.
or whatever, right? But if you start seeing a croissant, a chocolate croissant from Thomas Haas, it's over.
And especially when you can smell it.
Yes, it's
How
over.
can you say no when you smell?
It's in my tummy. Right? You know what I'm talking
One
about.
gulp. Oh, I totally know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Wu Assassins, filmed here in Vancouver.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many projects that are filmed here that everyone thinks they're in LA or in the US. It was here in our city. What was that experience like for you?
It was a very special experience. It was reuniting with the showrunner, John Worth, and working with a great group of Asian Americans, Asians, really, you know, not everyone's from America. So it was, a lot of them are really well known now in their own right? So it was, so, you know, working with Iko Uwais from Indonesia. He's one of the premier action stars working today, you know, from the Raid movies. Working with him was great because, I mean, he's the gold standard. So I learned a lot of stuff just in terms of action from him. I mean, he moves so fast, that just to be keeping up with him was like a highlight for me. Right? So that was great in that respect. And then working with people like Catherine Winnick, you know, who's Canadian from Toronto, you know, the great Catherine Winnick. And she directed this one episode that I was in. And seeing her, an actress, becoming a director and directing with such great command and poise and subtlety, it was like, okay, maybe I can do that one day, you know. So that was just great. And then of course, all the friendships that you make, you know, with all the actors and actresses on the show, it's amazing. And you know, working with a guy like Tai Ma, who I've worked with many times, who's also Canadian now, it's just fantastic. It was a really great experience.
And I got to see you guys both together on stage.
That's right.
Last weekend.
That's right. Yeah.
So that was great. as you were mentioning Wu Assassins, and I know Vancouver in wintertime, we can get a lot of rain. You're shooting like normally a film set, you're working long hours, like 12 hours if you're lucky. I know on CW shows it used to be like I've worked 16, sometimes 18-hour days. What do you do for self-care? For example, if you're in 4 to 5 days a week, and how are you doing self-care in between scenes or while you're on set? And what does that look like for you?
Coffee.
Coffee.
Very strong caffeine. Yeah.
I am coffee, coffee is me. That's my motto.
Yeah. I mean, on long days like that,
Yeah.
I would drink maybe 3 or 4 cups of double or triple shot cappuccinos.
And then you're buzzing.
I don't recommend it
You're
to
ready
everybody.
to go. I'm one of those people who's like Tiara knows. I'm like 1, 2. This is probably a cup number 3 today.
Yeah. So that keeps me, because people don't realize when you're on camera, you actually have to really be alive. You can't be like asleep, you know, because the camera is close on you, right?
Yeah.
If you're sleeping, the camera can see it, right?
Yes.
So
Well, that could be one show where it's just like, you know, snuggling up here, blanket, asking questions, half asleep, half awake.
I mean, if you start dozing off in your eyes, the camera sees it. Like, what is this guy doing? You know? So that and taking a nap.
Yeah.
Taking naps, and then, but it's survival. I mean, it's when you're doing 15-hour days, every other day or every day, it's a different type of experience, and you have to. It's a very monastic experience, meaning you gotta have to survive it. But it's great because it's doing what we love, and we're telling a story, and it's demanding, but it's fine. You're telling a story, and it's an honor to be able to do something like that. But yeah, to answer your question, it's coffee and sleep, basically. Yeah.
Do you meditate? Do you like journal, read in between scenes?
Definitely don't journal between scenes.
Or like on weekends?
No, I used to do that when I was very young, but I don't do that anymore because I'm lazy. But I do think, I read something that Chris Nolan, the director of Oppenheimer, said recently, and I've noticed that. He said he doesn't, apparently he doesn't carry cell phones with him wherever he goes, and he doesn't really allow actors to bring cell phones to the set. I'm not exactly correct on that. That's what I think I read. And the reason is that he says a lot of times during the day I would have good thoughts about the story, about my life, whatever, and I would jot those thoughts down. So I don't want to waste my brain cells or brain power on checking on latest Instagram feeds of other people during the day. And I think there's some wisdom to that.
Oh, I would agree. I did an experiment. We had a guest on the show, and he was telling me, I met him in Uzbekistan, and he said that for the first couple of hours in the morning, he keeps his phone on airplane mode, wakes up, journals, meditates, works out, and then checks his phone. So I did that, and it lasted for about 7-8 days. It was great.
Oh, okay.
And now that experiment is over, I may go
You're okay.
I may go back to it, but I completely agree. The phone is an addiction. It is that thing, and especially when you're filming, you're like, what's happening? Are the people going to show up?
Oh, I see.
You know, that kind of, but it's certainly a thing of who's saying what on WhatsApp, like, because I have friends around the world. But I think it takes discipline to have the...
Are you saying you're an Instagram addict?
Guilty as charged. Guilty as she zooms in.
It's addictive, isn't it? Yeah.
It is totally addictive. Okay, let's talk about working with The Rock.
Oh, okay.
What was that experience like on Skyscraper?
Well, okay, interesting. I actually did not on Skyscraper, which we filmed in Surrey, a suburb outside of Vancouver as well, for Hong Kong, believe it or not. We actually didn't work a lot. Most of my scenes weren't with him. All right. However, I got to know him when we were doing press for Skyscraper in China, in Hong Kong and stuff. He is, as advertised, he's one of the hardest working guys in our business. His success, is gotten not by accident. People work their buttocks off to get to where they are. And I mean, I think he wakes up, 4 or 5 in the morning, and he works out 2 hours. That's his meditation, right? Before he starts his day. And so, I got to see it in close, up close and personal, how hard he works, and the team that he's assembled. His company is called what, $6 Production. You know this?
No.
Yeah, I think it's $6 or $7. I think it's $6. Anyway, you can Google it, but that's how much he had when he started.
Wow.
He had $6 in his bank account. So he remembers where he came from. So it's a testament. It's
Love that. I remember my brothers were obsessed with like watching wrestling, and
yeah, sure.
I remember watching all those matches and what a great job he did branding and then transitioning to a film career. You worked on The Big Short.
Oh yeah, yeah.
With what a cast!
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Like, so. Tell us about that. I was so curious to ask about. I know your scenes were with Steve Carell, but it's like you have Brad Pitt, you have this, and all these eyes of the world. Do you ever think of when you're shooting, when you're filming, are you just so focused on your character and not thinking of what the audience is gonna think, or is it in the back of your mind? This is going to be shown across the world, going to go to film festivals. What is people's reaction? Or do you ever think of that or no?
No, the reality is that when you're filming a movie or filming a show, it's about, sometimes it's a year and a half or 2 years before that show comes out. So you can imagine when you're filming it, you have no idea what the audience reaction would be like or what the show could be like. You just don't know. All you're thinking about is what's happening at this moment in the scene that you're trying to accomplish. So we filmed that film, The Big Short, in New Orleans, and it was a very no big deal kind of a environment. It was like, it wasn't like there were like paparazzi everywhere. There's nothing. It was like it felt like an independent student film. We just kind of showed up. Oh, hi Steve, how you doing? Let's do this scene. And Adam McKay, the director, is a wonderful director. I mean, he comes from comedy, right? And I think he was one of the writers of Saturday Night Live, very, very early on. And he was Will Ferrell's partner. And he just wrote this incredible script about the crash and made it really relatable to the general audience. So when we were filming, it was a lot of improv. It was really free and flowing, and it's just, some of the stuff, when we were doing the improv, me and Steve Carell, I was like, man, that won't make the final film. Of course, it made the final film.
Yeah, like what? Tell us.
Oh gosh, some of the ad libs.
Like he would just keep going. Like what? Like how long would your scenes go till?
Oh yeah, like. We would do the scripted dialogue, a few takes, and then eventually, almost on every in every setup, Adam, the director, would say, "Okay, on this take, just say whatever you guys want. I mean, it's just improv." Go, what? And they said, "Yeah, just do whatever you want. Just go." So that's what we would do.
Yeah.
And we just kind of like make up stuff as we go along. Use some of the dialogue from the script, and he'll make some of the stuff from, off the cuff, and sometimes I would go, man, that would never make the final cut. And of course, that made the final cut. Yeah.
Maybe because you're just like not thinking and just having fun and going with it. That is amazing. And how was doing press for that show? Because I went to go see that movie in the theaters.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
And I also binge watched Altered Carbon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Wow, wow,
watched
wow.
quite a few of your projects.
Oh, wow,
Yeah.
wow, wow. Yeah, these are, so uh, doing press, it was, we had no idea. I had no idea that, so I did that, flew into New Orleans, shot 2 days or 3 days, and then that was it. Didn't hear from the film, didn't do ADR, didn't do dubbing, nothing. And then a year and a half later, it comes out. And then slowly, slowly, people started watching it, and it started building.
I remember when I went to see it, the theater was full.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You just never know. I mean,
Yeah.
no one would know that.
It sounds like your Calgary project, Hell on Wheels, really.
Yeah, no one knows. I mean, when you're doing it, you would not know that how the audience would react to it until sometimes it's not overnight either. It takes months, sometimes a year. Even today, like I was shooting this Korean movie and in Korea like a couple months ago, and the director hired me because she saw The Big Short, and this is like 7 years later, right? So she said, "I just wanted you because you're that guy."
Yeah.
So I said, "Okay."
Cool. Here I am learning some Korean. Great.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your latest project. Can we
Yes.
talk about that?
Yeah, sure.
Modelizer. What is the modelizer? Who is the modelizer?
The Modelizer is a rom-com, romantic comedy, and it's set in the world of international models in Hong Kong. And it's loosely inspired by this whole world, this whole culture of models and modelizers in Hong Kong. And modelizer, for those who don't know, is someone who pretty much exclusively dates models. And so I stumbled upon this world and learned a lot about it and researched it, wrote the script, and got my friends and partners to direct it. And we flew out a team from LA, and then there were actresses from Brazil, from Poland, from Croatia, from a K-pop star from Korea. They all flew in. We shot during COVID in Hong Kong, and it just was released a couple weeks ago in the US and Canada.
Congratulations. I did not know you wrote it. Like, I was watching the trailer. It looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think you should go to Paris for research tour. Did you go to Paris? It's like I lived in Paris. All you see is like 6 foot tall models.
Amazon's
everywhere.
right, yes,
I know,
that's right, that's
everywhere.
Yes. I mean, we're looking at different possibilities
Yeah.
for possible sequels.
Yeah, or even a series. I don't know.
Yes, yes. So we're very proud of the film. It's funny. It's satirical. You have to see it. Yeah.
And in terms of locations, like there seem to be some really gorgeous locations when I was seeing
Yes.
the clips online.
Yes. It's meant to be a love letter to Hong Kong. It shows Hong Kong in its full glory, and not just the buildings, but beaches, mountains, nice restaurants, et cetera, et cetera. It's cool.
I've only flown into the airport, like on my way to Bali.
Okay.
I wish I had enough time to explore Hong Kong, but certainly been one of the places I wanted to visit for shopping and for food. I feel like,
Yeah.
or just like wandering the streets to experience
Yeah,
Hong
yeah.
Kong. You split your time between Vancouver, Los Angeles, Beijing, and Hong Kong. A global citizen. Tell us about that.
Well, how do I say it? It's not that I really want to be a global citizen. It's just because I kind of go where the work is, and I've been living on and off in Vancouver for more than 20 years actually, and it's second home, it's first home, whatever you want to call it.
And you have family here.
I have family here, and it's an incredible experience in Vancouver. In the summer, like second to none. But I've also spent a lot of time in Toronto. I spent a lot of time in Montreal. I shot The Recruit the series on Netflix there in
Yes,
Montreal.
yes.
And I can tell you, I mean, Canada is one of the greatest countries in the world in terms of, look, people are kind of like happier here. You know, it's definitely safer here and than the U.S. Canada's been great to me. It's been an incredible, incredible journey. I never thought growing up in Hong Kong that I would be a Canadian citizen and also be working in Canada so often. It's been a blessing upon blessings.
Well, we love having you here. Before we let you go, our show is called Inspired Life. I love finding out from everyone where they get inspiration from. What inspires you in life?
I think well, several things. I think you need to travel to get out of your comfort zone, to be inspired. You know, like my Calgary story, I was inspired by going into a city that I didn't know anybody and let that experience fill you. So that was inspiring as it turned out, right? And my second thought would be you have to be happy. So you got to go to your happy place. And your happy place could be anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter.
It could just be like.
It doesn't have to be Hawaii. You understand?
Even though Hawaii is quite amazing.
Yeah. It could be Bombay.
Yeah.
If that's where your cool friends are. You know what I'm saying? It's your happy place. And you got to go to your happy place every now and then and just get refilled. And because when you're happy, you can relax.
Yeah.
When you're not happy, you're tense.
Yeah.
But when you're relaxed, then things, if you notice, when you're relaxed, a lot of good thoughts come to you. You know what I mean? Like I get a lot of inspiration in when I take a shower, like a warm, hot shower. And sometimes I'm there for like half an hour.
Getting ideas for your next project.
Yeah, because I finally realized. Well, I've talked to some people. They say, "Yeah, I get the same thing too." And we finally realized why that is because you're relaxed. When you're kind of in a warm shower, you're relaxed, and when you're
washing the day away or like starting a new day.
Yeah. When you're relaxed, a lot of good thoughts come to you. You know.
That sounds like your meditation.
Yeah, in the shower.
You heard it right here.
Who would have thunk?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I feel like for me, I'm going to be traveling to Paris for Fashion Week in like a month and a bit. Yes.
You are?
Yes. Maybe you can come and meet us and I can show you around.
That's amazing.
Yeah, Fashion Week is an experience. It's an experience. April, who's here from Rue Assassins, one of the makeup artists, she was there. I brought her to some fashion shows. It's just like a different world. You know, such a different world. The first moment I went to Paris, I remember walking on this bridge called Pont Alexandre III, which was Russia's gift to France. This beautiful, stunning bridge. I remember walking on it, and my mom had just passed away, and I was just like in this place in life, and the city just like hit me. And I remember thinking before I would go to Paris with a lover or when I'm engaged or on my honeymoon, something like that. And here I was by myself. And a thought came to me, this city is my lover. Like, this is my love. And there's so much beautiful architecture and art and people watching. And I'm sure there's other places in the world like Egypt or Hong Kong or other places I haven't been to in Africa that would move me in different ways. But Paris really affected me immensely. And it's an old city, and I think there's something really beautiful when you go to, cities like Rome and...
Well, you got to bring me there.
Yeah, you have to come along. That's some research, R&R for...
Yeah, totally.
For modelizer number 2.
I was just talking to a model friend about Paris Fashion Week.
Okay.
Last night.
Oh, wonderful.
So it's, yes.
You're meant to go, or you miss September? When do you leave?
It's 1 week of just insanity.
Yes.
It's just the whole city's enveloped.
Oh, it's chaos.
Right.
It's like literally when I was done, and I had to really set my intention for how I'm going to be when I'm there this time, that I need to take time to just breathe, because you get pulled in so many different directions, invited to, and then it wouldn't just be fashion, because then it'll be like, oh, the Italian ambassador, they're having this gathering and you have to come to this. So everyone from the world is there, from like Middle East to Asia to the US, and it's a great time to meet amazing people. You know, it's just like Cannes or Venice, Berlin, you know.
Fashion shows, dinners, parties.
Voilà.
Fashion show, dinner, parties.
Voilà.
Every single day, right?
Yes.
For a week, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she told me Milan is like here,
Yeah.
and then there's Paris.
Yes.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
you got to go to Paris. Okay. Has there been anyone that you have worked with that made you starstruck, or made you go, oh my goodness, I cannot believe I am working with this person today?
Of course. Richie Gere, for one, for sure. Richie Gere. When we were doing the movie The Red Corner. Chow Yun-fat, you know who he is?
Yes.
From Hong Kong, the
Yes.
Hong Kong icon. I did this movie, The Corruptor, with him, and in Toronto. And you know, of course, I mean, he's from my hometown. I grew up on his movies, and working with him and meeting him for the first time was like, wow. I mean, you know, for someone that you kind of grew up watching, and seeing them in the flesh for the first time, it does something for you. It's like, oh goodness, you know. So
How was that? Were you like?
Well, he asked me when he first met me. He says, "Why are you an actor?" That's the first question out of his mouth. I said, "I don't know. Why are you an actor?" Yeah. So, and then it's funny because a few days later we were like trying to kill each other, you know, on screen, right? So, those are probably, you know, two of the, and of course, you know, Brad Pitt. I actually met him on the red carpet.
How was that?
He's taller than I expected.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, and
So he's not wearing. Okay.
no, he's not like 5 feet 1 inches. You know, he's like 6'1" or something.
Yeah.
He's tall.
Oh wow.
And obviously very charismatic, and like he's the guy, right? Yeah. And Dwayne Johnson, of course. I mean, you won't forget that presence. I mean, he's big, right? Like every ounce of muscle there, right? So, yeah, I'm sure as I think about it, the list could go on. But
Yeah,
those are some of the,
as you leave, you're like, I could say that. Yeah, no, that is a great list.
Yeah,
Like, wow, what a career you've had. You know, I feel so honored you could take the time to be with us here today. If anything was possible in time-space continuum, you know, you could go in the present, past, future, and you could work with anyone on any project, feature film or series, what would it be?
well, like what kind of project, or who would I work with?
Yeah, who would you work with? I mean, it could be something from the past, like a project, like a feature or series, or an actor that you would want to work with.
Well, wow, that's a hard question to answer. But I mean, I have heroes. You know, people who've inspired me to be an actor and continue to inspire me. I mean, I love the work of Denzel Washington. If I ever have a chance to work with him, it would be a dream. I remember one of the movies that inspired me to be an actor was watching the movie The Last Emperor. Have you seen that movie?
No, I haven't, but I've heard of it.
Yeah. Bernardo Bertolucci, you know, the great Italian director. I remember watching this film in England, actually, on a screen in a theater, and I was like, wow. I mean, it's like Gone with the Wind. It's like Lawrence of Arabia, like a film like that. They don't make films like this anymore, or a lot less. But you know, to do something like that in a grand epic style, on a scale like that, with actors like Denzel Washington, it would be a dream. But you know what? I mean, even if my career ended tomorrow, it would be fine because it's been an incredible journey. You know, it would have been better than being in an office typing out, you know, perfect contracts.
Well, it sounds like you are going to do this for a very, very long time. I appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Yeah.
And if you guys felt inspired, make sure to get in touch and check out Byron's latest film, The Modelizer. Thank you so much, Byron. Thank you for joining us.
Great to be here.